He's thrilled to say that the new Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, is with us. It's great to see you.
Thanks, Kate.
How's the new job?
Yeah, good. Quite full on. I've been in the job for 5 days now, so a lot going on.
Why has privatisation not worked for our railways?
So I think there's huge fragmentation under the privatised system. You've got this dizzying array of private companies, which are the train operating companies, industry groups, some public sector bodies, parts of government, and there are a lot of tensions and conflicts of interest, and incentives, financial incentives are misaligned, and there's no overarching direction. And so I think as a result of that, no one's in control. That's what we're going to be changing when we set up Great British Railways. And what we're announcing today is a sort of first step on that journey.
So all 28 major UK train operators, that their services will come back into public ownership?
So there's currently 4 train operating companies that are already in public ownership, and there's a further 10 that will come in.
But what about the others?
So you've got some open access operators, and things like Heathrow Express, for example, and that won't come into public ownership.
Why are the services that you're bringing, the 3 that are the latest that we've heard about, why are you bringing them back into public ownership?
So we've got South Western that is coming in next May, then we've got C2C in July, and then we've got Greater Anglia in the autumn. So the contract expires, it comes to an end for South Western and C2C. And then on Greater Anglia, that is one of the companies that has actually got to the point in its contract where there's sort of like a minimum term after which it is possible for the DfT to end their contract if we serve them with an expiry notice. And so it makes logical sense to do those 3, given that we don't have to pay any compensation to the train operating company if we proceed in this way.
OK. What are you going to do about Avanti West Coast?
Yeah, so that's a problem at the moment. It's one of the worst performing rail companies, along with Cross Country. And so in advance of those train operating companies coming into public ownership, there will be a really rigorous process of holding the leadership there to account. I know my colleague, the Rail Minister, Peter Hendy, will have met with all of the leaders of the train operating company.
But they will come into public ownership.
They will,
at the end of their contract, which is October 2026,
they will,
I think?
Avanti will come into public ownership.
OK. Is the departure of Louise Haigh from her role going to impact your relationship with the unions?
So I previously served as the Deputy Mayor for Transport in London, and so in that role, you know, there was a lot of involvement with the trade unions in terms of trying to resolve disputes, both the RMT and ASLEF. I'm very clear, you know, sometimes the trade unions will be right and sometimes they will be wrong, and we've got to have a mature conversation.
Very close to the unions, that's the point I'm trying to make. Do you think that it's going to be a challenge? Are they upset that she was removed of her duties?
So, look, I have a mature relationship with the trade unions, and that's the way I think it needs to be. I do think there has to be a reset in the relationship between the employers and the unions on the railway. I think the previous government pursued a scorched earth approach to industrial relations. That's why we had strike after strike, disruption after disruption, costing the economy a huge amount of money. And so I think that it's right that we respect the trade unions and we treat them as a partner to work with. I think the previous government just saw them as a problem to be managed. There will be robust discussions in that. We won't agree on everything. And we've got a really important piece of work to do to make sure that we are running the railways efficiently, that we are providing value for money for both the fare payer and the taxpayer. And we want a railway that's fit for the 21st century. So that is going to be about making sure that we make best use of technology, that we improve productivity. And those are going to be the sorts of things that, you know, I want to sit down and have a grown-up conversation with the trade unions about.
Was she right to be sacked?
So Lou made the decision to resign.
I don't think she had much choice, though, did she?
I wasn't privy to
no, I'm sure you weren't,
those
but I'm
conversations.
I mean, you must be very disappointed that she's gone, even though, of course, it's bittersweet for you. But, you know, she was a young woman who had her convictions spent many, many years ago, and it's come back to bite her.
Yeah, so I like Lou, and I think she did a good job as Transport Secretary. I don't know what was said to Keir years ago and what's been said recently. I think she
I know, so that's not why I'm asking you.
She did
that.
say, didn't she, to be fair to her, that she didn't want to become a distraction. And I think that's quite an admirable thing to do, to step away and say, for the good of the team, for the good of the government, you know, I'm going to, you know, give up the job that she loved doing and I think she was good at doing. And so obviously I'm delighted to be in this role and I'll do it to the best of my ability. But, you know, I can't really comment because I don't know the full
No, I didn't ask you about
that
at all. I just, it's a shame that a woman of, you know, when it's her conviction was spent, that she found herself in the position she did. I suppose another way of asking you is, would you be happy to see her around the cabinet table again sometime in the future? She's only in her 30s, isn't she? Yeah,
I mean, look, those are decisions for Keir, and he said he thinks that she's got a huge contribution to make to politics and political life.
Yeah, OK. Do you think rail fares will be cheaper once these companies come back into public ownership?
So, in the budget this year, the Chancellor set out that next year rail fares will increase by 4.6%. That's the lowest absolute increase for 3 years. The commercial realities of the railways are very challenging at the moment. Even under public ownership, we've got to make sure that we've got enough money to provide the services that people want, because otherwise you can enter into a little bit of a death spiral, really. If you start cutting services and people can't get to where they want to get to when they want to get there, they'll look for other options. And so we've actually got to find a way to provide an appropriate service level, but we're going to have to become more efficient and we're going to have to increase productivity, because that's the way that you deliver value for money.
And a final thought, I think your team might have mentioned to you that we've got Susan Michaelis, who's a lobular breast cancer sufferer, on the programme later on. Under the previous government, she was promised £20 million specifically for research into lobular breast cancer. Up until now, that promise has not been carried over to this government. Should it?
So I'm not familiar with all the details. What I would say is that I appreciate that research is really important in terms of preventing and finding cures for different types of cancer. I know as a government we spend £1.5 billion, I think, on research. And so, you know, it's certainly something that I'd be happy to have a conversation with the Health Secretary about on her behalf.
Can you take that away and promise that you will speak to the Health Secretary on her behalf?
I can promise I can have that conversation.
Great.
What I can't do is promise what the outcome will be. But you know, I understand why she's raising it, and I'm happy to find out more information.
Welcome back to the morning rounds.
Thank you.
How is it?
It's all right. Not too bad.
I know you've got
I sort of feel like you didn't quite beat me up as if I was sort of like in a round with Mike Tyson.
No,
so I feel
didn't
like
need
you were kind. You were kind to me.
No. You were answering my question. Not all your colleagues do. Thank you. It's great to see you. Thank you.